Only the Board B Equality mark ensures you know where your food comes from, because it's independently checked at every stage.
Food intolerances are becoming better understood and as a result more frequently diagnosed. Today I'm going to meet Denise O'Callaghan to learn how to blend and use gluten-free flour. I love Asian food, so I'm going to make a red Thai pork curry, but first of all it's Irish Hake, one of my favourite fish, cooked with an Asian twist. The key ingredient in the glaze is the white miso paste. And in Japanese cuisine, it's used so much. I'm absolutely fascinated with that cuisine. So we have 5 basic tastes. First of all is saltiness, sweetness, sourness, bitterness, and the last one is umami. So it's kind of like a pleasant, savoury taste, so it is. And slightly salty, slightly sweet, it's absolutely delicious. Now, this is the white miso paste we're using. You can get a yellow one, a red one, a black one. It works really well with fish and also with meats. It's made with fermented rice and some soya beans. So I'm going to get a spoonful of this, and most supermarkets have this now. And in Japanese cooking, what they do is they make broths using a nice stock infused with this. Sometimes they put tofu into it, lots of vegetables, and sometimes fish. So it's actually a very healthy ingredient. Sweeten this with a little bit of maple syrup. So just a little drizzle of maple syrup. And then for the sourness, we have the white wine vinegar. Now you can use rice wine if you have it at home. It's even more authentic. So just a little bit of white wine vinegar in there. And I love sesame oil, and it works really well with this fish dish. So sesame oil, this is the toasted one. And then we're going to put in 1 clove of garlic, which we're going to crush. Have your garlic peeled. You can grate it if you want to. But we are going to put ginger in it too. So just use a spoon, scrape all that down. So this is a really interesting marinade glaze. It's gorgeous with chicken breasts. I'm going to grate my ginger. Peel your ginger. Just sit the grater on the bowl and just grate this in here. My wife Imelda adores this and fish. So we just mix this all together. The miso paste will actually thicken it. You can definitely get it in the Asian supermarket and keep it in your fridge when you open it. Another lovely ingredient to put into this is yuzu, which is a Japanese citrus fruit, which we use sometimes the juice in the restaurant. It's lovely, but very expensive. So that's what we have there. That's our glaze. Now we're going to brush this over the fish. And what I've done with the hake is just, you get your local fishmonger to do this. So this is pin-boned and the skin is removed. So we've kept it into a kind of small little fillet, which is going to cook lovely and fast. Using a pastry brush, we're going to brush this all over the fish. There should be no need really to season up the fish because you have all your different flavour components in this. You can leave this in the fridge at this stage, cover it in cling film for 2 or 3 hours. The flavour is fantastic. I'm going to put it straight into the oven. The fish is sitting on parchment paper, so it's not going to stick. Just lightly oil it, a little drizzle of some rapeseed oil, and put plenty of that paste. Be generous. I'm brushing it, but then I'm kind of dabbing it on. So it's ready to go into the oven. The oven is preheated at 180. And a piece of hake like this, it's not very thick. It's going to take about maybe 12, 15 minutes max. So we're going to pop that in there. And what I like to do is to give it about maybe 10, 12 minutes and then finish it off under the grill, so then you get it lovely and caramelised on top. But you've got to be careful. You do have parchment paper, so you don't want that to catch. While that's in the oven, I'm going to show you a lovely salsa. We're going to use some limes and avocado. So I'm just going to use a small knife for this. This is a lovely refreshing salsa. It's a little bit of a kick in it from the lime, and also we're going to put some chilli into this. So just using the point of a knife, and then just open this out. Usually what I do is just get the knife and then just remove it like that. Simply use the spoon and just slide this out. And it doesn't matter if it breaks up a little bit because this is quite a rustic, chunky salsa. Now I'm going to chop this. I'm going to use the bigger knife for this. If you can make this and leave it for about 5, 10 minutes, the flavours will kind of combine and get really, really full-on flavours. And this is going to go into my bowl. So I'm going to put some chilli into this, remove the seeds from the chilli, and I've removed any of the white membrane, so that goes in there. So that's a full chilli I'm using. We're going to put the zest of some lime into this. There's something I love about zest and limes. I just love the smell. If I'm making a dessert and rice pudding, even in a custard, it's gorgeous. got to put the juice in. So this will stop the avocado from going black. That's a beautiful lime, lovely and juicy. So squeeze that in there. And it just gives a lovely refreshing taste with the avocado. Squeeze that all out. So we're going to put in some cherry tomatoes into this, sweet fine tomatoes. Just cut them in half, put them in there. So I'm going to use some olive oil in this. Nice drizzle in here. I don't want it too oily, that's really important. That should be enough. A touch of salt and pepper, and I'm just using some sea salt. And then some black pepper. So some lovely fresh coriander works really good with this. Also mint would work really well, and basil, love basil. Just simply cut the herbs. You don't have to be too particular. A little chiffonade, so tiny little strips of herbs go in there. The same spoon that you scooped out your avocado, saving the wash up. You mix this all together. I'd leave that for about 10-15 minutes while the fish is on cooking, which is going to take about another maybe 8 to 10 minutes, and then we'll just finish it underneath the grill. So after 8 to 10 minutes, it's baked off. Now I need to get a little bit of colour. I've just the grill on, preheating. It needs to go on there for about 2 minutes. So I'm going to pop it back in. Just give it 2 more minutes to get a little bit of colour, and then we're ready to serve. When it's beginning to bubble and slightly caramelise, it's ready. The smells are fantastic. Just beautiful. Just let it rest for a minute. We're going to dress our plate. Get our salsa, and we're going to get some lovely salad leaves. So we're just going to arrange the salsa just around the plate. I'm going to place the hake in the centre of the plate. You could sit it under the hake if you wanted to, but it's nice just to showcase everything, all the hard work that you've done. And a little bit of chilli, love it. Some salad leaves. So we have a little bit of salad burnet, really, really delicate salad. So we'll just arrange that. A lovely zesty, kind of lemony taste to this. There's another one you can use, lemon verbena. This is some red vein sorrel, and these are all grown in our garden. And this is something that Kevin, our gardener, he forages. So this is wood sorrel. Reminds me of lemons and limes, and then some nasturtium leaves, full of flavour, and then a couple of little edible flowers. We have some violas, a little bit of borage here, and then the easiest way to lift this is with a fish slice. Slide it off, and then bring it over, and that goes in the centre of the plate. Cut a small little piece of lime here, and let everyone just kind of squeeze that. How nice does that look? So that's a very healthy and quick way of cooking fish. And the miso paste, it's a very new ingredient for me, something I'd love you to try at home. Adds a lovely distinctive flavour to the actual fish, and it's very easy to use. Denise O'Callaghan set up her specialist bakery in Cork to cater for the growing demand for gluten-free food. We met at the Fota Island estate, and I asked her how she got into baking.
I was in banking and Dad was diagnosed as a celiac, and Mum, who's a fabulous home baker, basically had to completely change the way that she baked and turn everything on its head so that we could cater for someone who's celiac. And at the time, there was very little on the market, really, you know, and what was there was dreadful, not like now where there's so much choice. And so Dad and I kind of decided that if it was difficult for us who were all able to bake, what about everybody else out there? And the bakery was born out of that.
And when people look at packaging and they see gluten-free, what does that mean?
Gluten is the protein in wheat, and so that's removed. The main people that would be interested in that are what are called celiacs. And so if you're celiac, you actually have a disease and your body can't process the gluten, and you can't treat it with surgery, and you can only treat it with diet. Medication doesn't work, and you can end up very, very unwell. So people get very sick, tummy problems, and end up with tummy cancer. So you have to be very careful to make sure you exclude all gluten from your diet.
For people cooking and baking at home, what are the main challenges they have?
I would say cooking is easier. It's easier to avoid gluten and to switch flours and gravies and that. But from the baking point of view, I suppose the breads are difficult, but pastry is very difficult as well. And pastry tends to fall apart and it does all the wrong things and not what you're expecting it to do. So that's very challenging. We get a lot of inquiries at the bakery about that, about how to make decent gluten-free pastry.
What sort of flour should people use who are gluten intolerant?
Obviously nothing with wheat in it. So things like potato flour, tapioca flour, then less common ones like teff flour, buckwheat flour, quinoa. There's a whole range of them. But no one on its own is really perfect for gluten-free baking, that's what I would say. So we encourage people to blend them together. And it's important because all the flours have different characteristics. And you're just trying to recreate the whole texture and characteristics of a wheat flour. And it's important as well to use a gum, because gluten, if you think about it, is like the glue that binds together a flour, keeps it all together and helps it to rise. So when you take that out, all bets are off, really. So we use gums, things like xanthan gum, people might know the name of that, and guar gum, they're used in other things, and they act as a binder, and also like an emulsifier, they help things to blend. And basically, they keep the dough together and they help it to rise.
And what are you going to cook for me today?
We're actually going savoury today. I like the range of cakes here. So it's a quiche. It's a quiche with some bacon and some cream. So it's not the most healthy option, so maybe a weekend treat. But I suppose it's all about the pastry, really. And I just want to show everyone at home and to chat with you about how to make a gluten-free pastry and to prove to everyone that it doesn't have to be that hard, that you actually can do it easily. Neven, I thought now you might fancy doing a bit of gluten-free rolling out for me today. So I made some pastry actually a little bit earlier and I popped it into the fridge for half an hour or so. But see, I'm just trying to prove a point now about how easy it is to work with all things gluten-free, a particular pastry.
Well, I'm really interested in this because sometimes the pastry has a reputation for being very soft and it cracks and whatever like that.
Exactly. So this is the gluten-free flour.
This is your own?
Yes, basically gluten-free flour, it's the trickiest thing. It's the most difficult part of gluten-free baking. I've blended the flours here, so what you're using is a combination of my flours. I think a mistake is people tend to take one flour and they use it for everything. So we have teff flour, which is quite an unusual one.
I never heard of it.
Yeah, it's quite a gritty flour here, quite a sandy one, so I only use a small amount of that. I have tapioca, potato flour and corn flour. So they would be, I suppose, most common ones that people would know about. The corn flour is quite white, can be quite chalky.
And dry.
So on its own, it's not great.
Yeah.
And then the potato flour is very white as well. It's a stark whiteness, but likewise on its own, not great. I would use it quite a bit for thickening gravies and that. Then we also have a little bit of rice flour. Now, rice flour is perfect for heavy cakes like chocolate torte, a dense, heavy chocolate cake. But on its own, if you were making a sponge cake now, it would be a disaster. It wouldn't rise, it would be very heavy and too dense. And then a very important thing is the gum. So I have a little bit of gum here, and you only use this in a tiny amount. And this takes the place of gluten, actually. And it's just another powder. It makes your mix, I suppose, more viscous. It helps stick it together. It all binds together. Yeah, it fills in the place of gluten.
Definitely has a lightness to it.
Yes,
so have you butter in this too?
I've actually used a dairy-free margarine. We deal with celiacs, obviously, who have an issue with gluten, but we have a lot of people who come to us who are wheat intolerant or dairy intolerant or yeast intolerant. Wow. So I ended up developing that the range is almost suitable for all of those intolerances. You could do it with butter if you want it richer. Now, having said that, even though I have a dairy-free pastry, we're using cream in the actual filling, so not suitable for our dairy-free friends today. Exactly, some nice free-range eggs.
That's great. I'm just pushing it in here. So am I doing okay?
You're doing all right, yeah.
Do you make quiches in the bakery?
In the bakery? No, we don't do any savoury products. But we do things like mince pies and apple tarts, so they would all have a pastry base.
And what's your best seller?
There's two. One is Mum's tea brack, and then the other thing is the chocolate brownie is very popular.
Of course.
Yeah, especially with kids.
How are we looking? Is it okay for you?
Looking great. Is this your first time working with gluten-free bakery?
To be honest with you, I've made gluten-free bread in the restaurant, but to be honest with you, it is my first time.
Is it? Oh, there you go.
That's why I was intrigued to see it. And initially when I thought, I said, it's going to crack everywhere. But you just keep pressing it together. And
yes, when you're making normal pastry, it's all about everything being cold. It's the opposite with gluten-free, because that's all about the gluten.
And
when it's gluten-free, it doesn't matter. So you can have a hot room and hot hands. You can overwork it, over-roll it, and it'll be grand.
So what's the next stage?
Brush that with a little bit of egg white, just in case, because sometimes you have tiny invisible holes, and then when you pour in your filling, I'm sure you don't, but I do, and then you end up with the filling runs out.
The egg white's a good tip.
Yeah, just a little bit of egg white on it, and then we actually pop it into the oven and bake it blind. So normally for gluten-free, you don't really need to use baking beans, because it doesn't rise as much, but I like to use them for a quiche and fill it right up to the top, because sometimes, if the sides fall in and it's more difficult to fit.
It supports it.
Exactly.
And how long would you give it in the oven?
You're only baking it blind now, so you're not over baking it. So 15-20 minutes until it's a light golden. And then you pop in the filling.
And you have some here, haven't you?
I have actually, I did one there a bit earlier. I was busy,
Interesting. So you have that brushed with the egg white?
That was brushed with the egg white, and that's why you have the colour there.
It doesn't shrink too much.
That's the other thing without the gluten. It reacts really quite differently to a regular pastry. It takes more abuse.
So now for the filling.
Yeah, for the filling. It's got a bit of cream, not the low-cal option today. So I have egg yolks. And we also have 3 egg yolks and then 1 full egg.
1 full egg,
And a bit of salt and pepper, if you would please.
Yeah, no problem.
And
perfect.
So, oops.
That's a tiny wee pinch.
Small bit, I know, the salt.
Lovely.
No, perfect.
Okay, happy?
That's great. Yeah, could I trouble you to sort out a bit of bacon there?
Yeah, so this is some smoky kind of lardons of bacon,
Yeah,
is it?
I think streaky bacon works very well for
Okay.
flavour, you know. Rather than chopping the streaky bacon there, I actually bought bacon lardon. So I'm all about the shortcuts, Neven. I have no time.
Well.
I'm stuck in the bakery 20 hours a day, so...
And Denise, how does that look?
That's absolutely perfect.
Happy?
Spot on, Neven. Good
Good.
man. Yeah.
Do you want that in here now?
Please, yeah.
Super, okay.
Because you're a great wee assistant, aren't you?
It's hard to beat that quality assured bacon. It's
That's
gorgeous,
lovely,
nice and
isn't it?
smoky.
Lovely.
Here we go. I'll
Perfect.
pass that over to
Great
you.
stuff.
And
Make
I
a
will
bit of
tidy
room
up over here.
Good man. So you could put mushrooms or whatever in with this now if you like, but we'll keep it simple and do a quiche Lorraine today. Pour my filling back into the jug purely because I'm messy and I'd be afraid I might spill it. Will I give you this now if you're on wash up?
Now you're pushing your luck. Eh?
Now, and I'm just going to pour this in now. Sometimes I wait until I'm right up close to the oven to pour it in.
Some of it can spill, of course. You could put herbs and all of that, can you, really?
You could do
Perfectly
actually,
measured,
yeah.
well done. I'll get the oven.
Oh, good man. Perfect. I guess do the tricky bit, lifting it in.
I know, I'm sorry.
And this is a fan oven, so it doesn't really matter where it goes. So I'm going to pop it in. The bottom, I should have a tittle there now, it's roasting, but anyway. So it's a moderate oven.
Yeah, for
This
how
is
long?
you'll know by the look of it, depends on your oven, you know, every
Yeah,
oven,
true.
so 20 minutes or so.
Okay.
But it will have solidified,
Okay.
you know, the eggs will have
Kind of set. Yeah,
exactly,
lovely.
like a custard. But this is 180, so it's a
Okay,
little bit
so it's-
cooler than
okay,
regular.
okay.
So I made one earlier on, actually. I just wanted it to cool because we couldn't
Yeah.
cut this straight out of the oven, it would just
Okay.
be far too hot. So that's
Looks
cooled
lovely,
down
and
a
you can
little
see
bit
a slight
now.
little wobble in the centre.
Yes.
I love all the bacon.
Yeah, and
the
it gives
eggs,
it a
all
bit
that.
of...
Yeah. Now, what else would you serve with this?
bit of side salad, I think, is nice. I mean, you
Okay.
can do
We have
gluten-free
that.
garlic bread or whatever, but I think a bit of side salad is nice with it, you know, keep it simple.
And the pastry looks lovely, so it does.
Then it holds really well, it doesn't break when you
Yeah.
cut it.
It's the pastry I'm really interested in. Cuts really nice, anyway. Doesn't fall apart. You know, I'd find it very hard to tell the difference.
Really?
Yeah, I would. I think it's excellent.
Great.
Great flavour.
Praise indeed.
And the smoked bacon and all works really well with it. It's absolutely delicious. I think the secret, you know, into gluten-free bacon is the flour. That's the key.
Get that right, and it all falls into place, really.
And it's lovely to cook with you. Thanks
Oh,
a million.
likewise. Thanks
Great
so much,
to see you.
Stefan.
Continuous
Thanks a
success.
million.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Look for the Board Be Equality mark, because it looks after you. Look for the Board Be Equality mark, because it looks after you.
Anyone that knows me knows I love Asian food, and I really love to make a red Thai curry. In this recipe, I'm using a lovely lean pork fillet, which cooks really quickly, low in fat, sweet potatoes, and I'm going to show you first of all the base for the curry, which is actually really, really quick and easy to make. So I'm going to use some ginger, which I've just peeled, and some garlic. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil into the pan, just a tiny little drizzle of oil in this, and we're going to grate in the ginger. In Thailand, they use a ginger called galanga or galanga. It's very, very aromatic, slightly citrusy, and the only place you'll get that is the Asian supermarket. Crush 2 cloves of garlic in here, and then we're just going to let this sweat off for a moment. a little bit of palm sugar, which is lovely and sweet. You could use coconut sugar, but just a small amount of the palm sugar goes in there. So you can see it's kind of crystallized, actually a very interesting flavour, so it is. Beautiful in the curry. Curry paste goes in next. Now be careful with the different varieties or brands. Some of them are spicier than others. This is a shop-bought curry paste. Put in 3 teaspoonfuls of this. So in the curry paste, there's usually shallots, garlic, shrimp paste, lemongrass, of course, which is a big flavour in Thailand. And they have these called carp lime leaves, which I'm going to put into the paste. You buy them just in the freezer department in the Asian supermarket. When they're dried, they lose 50% of their flavour. So buy a packet of them and keep them in your freezer. They're absolutely delicious in the curry. But also, when I make a stock syrup, for example, fresh fruit salad, I put lemongrass, ginger, mint, and also some of those lime leaves. They're fantastic. So you can use them, not just for the curry, but even for desserts. Now, we're going to let this cook off. And this is where it can kind of catch in your throat, so be careful. There's chilli in this. I'm going to put in nam pla, and this is what they use in Thailand to season it. It's a fish sauce. It doesn't smell very good, to be honest with you, but it's so important in this recipe. This is what seasons the actual curry. Put in coconut milk. This is from an Irish company called Thai Gold. It's lovely and creamy. Put the full can in here. Now, I've had the pleasure of going and visiting Thailand many times. It's one of my favourite countries, and I'll always go to a Thai cookery course for half a day or a couple of hours. So you'd be chopping away there and they'd say to you, God, you're very good at chopping. I wouldn't tell them I'm a chef. I just say, listen, I like cooking at home. But what I get an understanding for is ingredients and different recipes. And that's what I love about being a chef. We never stop learning. I'm going to put in some stock into this, wheat-free, chicken or vegetable stock, it doesn't matter. Put the lime leaves in, just tear them. So that releases that wonderful, fragrant. That reminds me of my holidays. Stir that through. I'm using, it looks like a wooden spoon, but it's actually called Exoglass. It's a heat-proof plastic spoon, but what I like about this, it doesn't absorb flavours. So I can make a curry or something like that, give it a quick wipe, and then you can go make a custard, something like that. So Exoglass is the name of it. Bring that to the boil, let that cook away there. Meanwhile, I can prepare the sweet potatoes. Just with a potato peeler, I've just simply peeled them, and you can use pumpkin when it's in season, you can use butternut squash, whatever you like. Now I'm just going to cut this, and we're going to cut this nice and big. I'm not going to cut it too small at all. I want you to know that you're eating the sweet potatoes. This would be a curry that we make regularly in the cookery school, and then that's going to go into the bowl. This is some nice quality assured Irish pork that I'm using. So it's a very lean cut of pork. It's the fillet, it's the most expensive. So you can use the shoulder. I've made this with the shoulder. I've also made it with the leg of pork. It takes a little bit longer to cook. This will cook in about 20 minutes. So we've trimmed off any excess fat. Look how lean that is. It's just perfect, so it is. We're going to slice it into roughly about 1/2 inch. So that's what we call little medallions here. You can make this with chicken, with beef, and even turkey is delicious. So that's my pork done. Now I'm just going to cut the lime, and we're going to put the juice of the lime just into our curry. Good squeeze of that. Bring over the pork, add them in. Just sprinkle them all over a nice casserole pot. I'm just going to wash my hands, especially after handling raw meats, really important. And then we have our sweet potato. Sprinkle that all over. I'm going to stir this through. And this needs to come back to the boil, and this will be done easily 20 minutes. Just when the sweet potatoes are cooked and the pork is cooked through. While that's on cooking, we're going to just steam a little bit of rice. Bring the water to the boil, add in some lovely fragrant Thai rice, and I'll give it about 4 or 5 minutes, and then I'll switch it off, and it should be nice and light and fluffy. So while my pork is on cooking, the rice is on, and I'll be ready to serve up in about 10 or 15 minutes. After 20 minutes, the sweet potato should be lovely and tender and the pork cooked through. We want to just finish it with some herbs. So a little bit of coriander. I'm going to roll it up in my hand, and I'm going to pick some lovely mint here. So there's lots of lovely fresh herbs here in Airfield. So whatever kind of mint you have works really well with this. Now gather it all up. As you can see, it's a bit blowy, so I'm not going to cut it too fine. So you got to work fast, especially when you're cooking outdoors, and stir this through. So the herbs go in at the last minute. They add lovely freshness and they taste great. And then we're ready to serve up. I'm going to get a dish of rice so it's nice and fluffy. That's lovely. And then just bring over your bowl, and I want to get as much of that lovely curry sauce in there as possible. The pork, the sweet potatoes, nice big chunks. What you can do is do 2 big bowls, put it at the center of the table, and let everyone help themselves. So that's the lovely pork fillet, the sweet potatoes, And there we have it. I'm just going to finish just with the rice, a little bit of sliced spring onion just over the top. Adds lovely freshness to it. The beautiful thing about this curry, it can be made from start to finish in 30 minutes. And if you make this yourself, you have total control of the ingredients. Next time I meet Indy Power, a food blogger who focuses on healthy recipes. And I'll show you a couple of healthy recipes of my own, a spinach and feta pie, and a pork goulash with cauliflower rice.
At every stage.